Good evening, Auburn. This is our second Be Informed video. We're going to talk about agendas, the Committee of the Whole agenda, and the Auburn City Council meeting agenda. Robert's Rule of Order defines the Committee of the Whole when an assembly has to consider a subject which it does not wish to refer to a committee, and yet where the subject matter is not well digested and put into the proper form for its definite action, or when, for any reason, it is desired for the assembly to consider a subject with all the freedom of an ordinary committee. It is the practice to refer the matter to the Committee of the Whole. So in other words, if it doesn't really apply to any of the other committees, then they can throw it into the Committee of the Whole and everybody can be involved. There are 3 openings on the Planning Commission.
Chairman's Communications this evening. As this is the last meeting that we will have 3 members with us. Mr. Warren McCord, Mr. Bob Rittenbaugh, and Mrs. Robin Bridges. So we will sadly depart from you, but you'll be missed.
Godspeed. Anybody who's out there listening, serve your city in some fashion. If you're here listening to this meeting, then you are halfway there. Go be of service.
Thank you. And from staff communications, anything?
Yeah, so I just want to second what Cherry said. I greatly appreciate having getting the pleasure to know all 3 of you. Saddened that y'all are leaving, rolling off. I really do feel like, Warren, like you should get like a golden plaque or something. You should like petition the council of like I was just longest serving Pacific Rim.
I got one, but I thought I was finished.
Just when he thought
7 years ago, I got one. I have a plaque. It's on my wall.
Oh my gosh, you need another one.
Then the phone rang. And you couldn't help yourself.
This time, though, he got a card with a note in it.
That's
Feel
right.
like it's sealed.
That's right.
Yeah.
I can't come back after this. This is done.
The cards are nice.
Yeah. So like I said, I think genuinely, really appreciate the work that y'all put in. It's very demanding. I think for a lot of people, in some places, planning commission's kind of ho hum. You just kind of got to show up to meetings once a month. I mean, we have the packet lunches. There's a lot of information. There's a lot of expectations that y'all be here, work sessions, and et cetera. And so, I mean, just for the dedication over the years that y'all have served, I mean, I greatly appreciate it. Like I said, I mean, just kind of doing your civic duty, doing all your part to kind of help Auburn be a better place. So we greatly appreciate it. So thank you very much.
You're not ho-hum.
Thanks, staff.
Yeah.
Y'all are awesome.
Yay.
I'm going to tell you some things that the Planning Commission does if you have some interest. The Planning Commission, in cooperation with the Planning Director and staff, shall study land use and development trends, collect data, analyze such information, and prepare a set of official policies for the future growth and development of the city. These policies shall be collectively be known as a comprehensive plan. The Planning Commission shall revise and update the comprehensive plan at intervals. The Planning Commission shall study and report on all proposed amendments to the text of the ordinance referred to by the City Council. The Planning Commission shall study and report on all proposed amendments to the official zoning maps. The Planning Commission shall review and approve or approve with conditions. The Planning Commission shall hear all applications for conditional use permits and shall make a report and recommendation to the City Council. The Planning Commission shall analyze the extent to which developments has occurred in Auburn as compared to the projected growth at the time of the last previous mapping of the districts created by the Auburn zoning ordinance. The Planning Commission shall cause the posting of notice in the form of signs on property that is subject to a public hearing for rezoning, text amendments, and a conditional use permit and other matters which may come before it. The Planning Commission shall review the character, location, extent of any street, square, park, or other public way, ground or open space or public building or structure or minor utility project, whether publicly or privately owned, in accordance with Section 115211 of the Code of Alabama of 1975, as amended. On this agenda, there is 3 openings as mentioned earlier. These positions are 6-year terms. There's a total of 9 members on the commission. The mayor nominates the commission members while the council appoints them. The number one problem in our survey that we've had before was the overbuilding of downtown Auburn. You citizens now have a chance to have your input. If you feel you have the talent and skills to help this board, please apply. Meeting time every month is on the second Thursday at 5 p.m. Meeting location is at the Council Chambers, 141 North Ross Street. Archived meetings can be found on YouTube or through the City Agenda Integrated Meeting Player. Now, the main agenda is slim, like last week. 6 contracts and agreements are on the agenda. This part of the agenda seems to always get a lot of activity from Councilman Griswold.
And none of the, any questions or comments?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I have a proposed amendment that I have provided to Lindsay and to the city manager, in that I propose that in the draft ordinance 3387 be amended to delete paragraph 15 on page 6 of 6. The paragraph reads that the spending authority of the city manager shall be established to match that of the competitive bid law threshold. I have a copy of that if anybody would like to see it.
Yeah.
So this is the first time we have seen this. Ms. Crouch, I want to make sure this is managed and handled the right way. So is that, would we assume that's a motion right there for an amendment?
Yeah,
for
you made a
amendment?
motion, you need a second before you can do anything else.
All right, and I'm passing this out if the council wants to wait and read this before, but I do need a second, or I don't need a second, whatever the council wishes.
Second.
All right, I have a motion and a second. Now, discussion, Ms. Crouch, on this?
Yeah.
Okay, discussion on this. Mr. Griswold, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you. I'm not really sure why this wound up in here as increasing the authority of the city manager. You know, the city council has authority over the budget. We have very little insight into the budget other than a very top level. And I certainly have no problem looking at each and every item on the budget if that's what it takes. But increasing it beyond what we already have, I think is not necessary. I'm more than happy to consider any review of contracts, but it just seems to me that we're giving up what minuscule authority we already have on budget execution.
The current authority is $15,000?
Current authority per the financial policy is $15,000, yes.
And why was it established at $15,000?
That was matching the competitive bid law as established in state law at the time. So what happens when you adopt a budget is the departments, as you see 4 agenda items on the consent agenda tonight that would fall. The new competitive bid law threshold is $30,000. So most of those items, one was increasing pest control costs by $784. One was two were about software contracts, and one was about dealing with a graduate fellow program at Auburn University. Those are things that are already encountered. They're in the budget. They're within departmental budgets, and they are routine operation matters of the city. With current inflation and so on, it allows me to continue to operate the city without coming to you with 4 things extra on the consent agenda. The council certainly does not have to pursue this, but this is something where we've tracked this for years. As we discussed during our mid-biennium budget workshop, I placed it here instead of in a financial policy most of you likely haven't seen because I wanted you to have direct awareness of it. It is here so that every time the council deals with something with the budget, it is right there in front of you in the budget ordinance, so you're very clear on where it is. So it's my attempt to be very transparent about what that number is and the why.
And again, the city of Auburn, this is what we have done historically, correct? Is that correct?
And it used to be $10,000 before the state raised it.
It was $7,500 in 1994, but it's always followed that competitive bid law amount.
That changed, the legislator changed that
legislature changed that to 30,000 this last year.
That's correct. Don't confuse that though with the public works bid law,
Right.
which is a higher number. That's $100,000. This is just tying spending authority without it coming before this body to 30. In essence, that's where it stands today, and it's tying it. There is a potential, and it was in your budget slides. In 2027, the competitive bid limit could be adjusted to match the consumer price index and could similarly be adjusted every 3 years per the new law that was passed. So that's why we tied it there.
In this case, it doubled from 15 to 30. It seems like a substantial.
Right, because it's following what state law says.
Right.
But when's the last time the competitive bid law was changed prior to this?
In 2008 is when it went to 15,000, which was double what it was in 94. It was 7,500. So it has not always doubled, but just depending on the circumstances of inflation and those kind of things.
So the new law is built in to adjust for inflation possibly starting in 2027? So it's
Yeah,
not
based on the
necessarily-
CPI, yeah.
Okay.
And who knows if it gets changed between now and 2027.
This isn't directly tied to that, so we don't have to increase the city manager's spending limit just based on the competitive bid law in the future necessarily. right?
No, you don't have to at all. This is to just
Stick to
give flexibility
30,000.
with inflation and so on. In the daily operations of the city, I had someone ask today, well, how many contracts do you sign? I probably sign 10 to 15 contracts a day. My staff will tell you, sometimes they get on me because they need some stuff done. It's everything down to the guitarist at the city market for $125 and on up, because staff technically doesn't have the authority to sign any contract. And so I've signed a lot of contracts on a daily basis, and most of these things in this price range these days are very operational for the city. They are not policy making. You have broad policy authority and big picture items. I'm running the day-to-day operations of the city, and the only goal of this is probably in the 10 to 15 hour range of staff time went into those 4 agenda items alone. If you talk about the number of staff members it touches, so we're trying to be efficient. But at the end of the day, that's up to you. The ask, it's been a long time coming for the ask, and we actually waited for the state to change the competitive bid law because it's been tied since 1994 to that, and that's why I haven't asked prior. It's something we've discussed off and on, but that's why I haven't asked
Do we know
prior.
what's typical? City manager, other cities, do they match competitive bid law in other cities that are similar size, or do we know the answer?
I
Yeah,
do not
we
know
do
the
not
answer
know.
to that.
I certainly support it. I think it like you spoke to the efficiency of running the city. We got a proposed budget. There's nothing that comes before us that's not in the budget. There's nothing that you're going to approve outside that's not in the budget.
I would also like to remain employed, so, there's if something gets uncomfortable, there are things that come to you guys, and I've even had staff ask tonight, like the Cook's Pest Control item, why when we're adjusting by $754, do we have to come before you? It's not just the total dollar amount, it's something that we actually vet every one of these with our city attorneys before they end up on your agenda, so sometimes something else triggers it, whatever it is, so yeah, there's a lot of behind-the-scenes work that goes into that.
Would this make your life any better, any simpler?
Like on this particular agenda, it would have been 4 less agenda items we're putting together and reviewing that go through multiple people, yes. It
But you
would,
still have to sign a contract.
correct. Now, I can grant that authority to others, which the executive directors will get some of that, but they will have spending limits. This is, people know this about me, every contract that comes before me, I read it. Even if it's been through the city attorneys and multiple people, every expense I sign, I read the whole thing, and they will all nod at you. They've all gotten a phone call from me they didn't want to get. It says, what is this? And why is it in here? So there's a lot of, I take my fiduciary responsibilities very seriously, and in government, you better, or you, not only will you not be employed, you might be behind bars. So therefore, I'm very serious about this, and this is to operate the city, not to overstep my bounds.
Any other comments?
Well, I work with contracts every day, and so I understand, believe me. And to have to sit down and read these contracts, that's a lot. So, Ashley Kelly, I ain't got no problem with this one.
All right.
Megan, I appreciate the work you do, and and I trust you. I appreciate the effort that was put into this budget. And I appreciate the information that's provided to the council. And I appreciate the fact that we're all allowed to ask any question we want to of our staff, from the most minute expense to the largest expense. We have that right and the ability to ask that of you. We are simply following what we have done as a city. I believe that this helps us. If it helps you, it helps us. And I know firsthand what a grinder you are, and I appreciate that about you. So I will not vote for this amendment. Okay, so if we're all through
Yes, Mr.
with
Mayor,
that.
I'd just like to say I appreciate Councilman Griswold's
Absolutely.
attention to detail. I always get a lot of comfort knowing that you put in eyes on each packet. So thanks for your work. I
appreciate you saying that, Bob.
I got to say, you know, I'm very comfortable with this piece in place, but I certainly like the discussion.
Great thing about democracy is we all bring something to the table into these meetings, and we all have the ability to speak to it. So that's a good thing. All right, how do we need to handle this from a vote
You've got to vote
procedurally?
on the amendment, and you can just voice vote on it.
Okay,
You're fine.
all right. So all in favor of this amendment, okay? So you'd be supporting this amendment. All in favor of this amendment, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed to this amendment, please say nay.
Nay.
I didn't vote, but I meant to. Can I vote aye?
How would you handle that?
It's at the pleasure of you guys, that's fine.
Okay. You gonna vote aye?
Aye.
I'll say, that'd be 2 ayes then.
2 ayes and 7 nays.
2 ayes and 7 nays.
Confused,
You got
Mr.
that?
Mayor.
So the
That's no
amendment
problem.
did not carry, Mayor, so you're back to just,
Some might find it interesting that the city goes through Amina Partners GPO, which is a buying group.
Partnering with a group purchasing organization or GPO has become a best practice in procurement for businesses of all sizes. And Omnia Partners is leading innovation in the GPO landscape for the private sector.
Not for all they're buying, but we don't know how much. So if a local company wants to do business with the city of Auburn, they must join this group, which is located in Tennessee. This buying group requires a business to have a minimum of $1 million in sales to be in the buying group. Therefore, small businesses are excluded. This practice is common throughout the state when procuring various supplies, including throughout the country. Matter of fact, this is a $30 billion company. It seems Megan are impressed with billion-dollar companies instead of small local businesses. Note, the local company, Alabama Office Supply, had to go through buying group as opposed to doing a direct bid with the city. Other contracts for approval are audiovisual equipment or installation or widening project independent audits, etc. They all have to do that. There are 3 annexes that are going to be on this agenda. There's a 4.45 acre at 315 Lee Road, 025 Hillendale Drive. Then there's a 2.06 acres annexation at 350 East Farmville Road. And another annexation, 3.89 property located west of Society Hill and Moores Mill intersection. There are 2 resolutions, a conditional use dealing with Beehive Distribution and Contract Vortex Services, LLC, server project at Willow Creek and Auburn University Basin. There's also Green Space Advisory Board position that is open. The term is from August the 8th of 2024 through 2028.
Become a part of our Be Informed campaign and be informed.